All right. Let me turn that down. And I will give it about a minute to get started. Um, Let me know as you guys come into the room. Say hello. Let me know, and then I guess I'll give it. Since I posted this live stream a little bit late. Of course, those of you all familiar that I am, this is going to be a regularly scheduled thing, Monday through Thursday. Fridays, because I do celebrate. I do observe the Sabbath. I do. I observe the Friday evening to Saturday night. Saturday evening Sabbath. So there is no show on that day. I don't know. Maybe on certain days, if I have something really important, I might at the last minute. But on those days, I will try to give you guys an advance notice. Normally around noon Pacific time. So that would be, since majority of my listeners I see are on the East Coast, that would be roughly about 3 p.m. When you should 3 p.m. Eastern, when you should start looking for any changes if you see anything on a Friday or whatever. I guess yeah, that's right. I said 2 minutes. I'll give it about another 30 seconds before I actually get started. I know you all have seen the title. Hopefully, you're just not clicking on something randomly, and you are actually paying attention to what we're talking about today. Um, let's see. And three, two, one. All right, we will go on ahead and start. Hello, this is what I've been thinking. Car chats. Car ride chats. I'm not sure how I'll title it, but you guys get the point. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, this show today that I wanted to get into has to do with a debate, which kind of started. Well, not really a debate. It's an argument. Let's just call it what it is. This started out on I believe it was Wednesday or Thursday, and for those who are not familiar with my Twitter, I have not saw it. I advise you to go on and read it, and I guess read the back and forth if you feel like going all the way through it. But at least look at what I was retweeting out and what I was talking about. And this basically goes back to the whole Juneteenth thing, with Juneteenth becoming a national holiday. Um, I've had this conversation with some of my friends and colleagues off camera, but I felt like I felt like I needed to go in more in depth because I just don't feel, and let's just be honest. I'm gonna, I'll try my best to try to spare feelings here. I know that in this newer society, everybody is so touchy feely. Everybody's feelings get hurt a lot easier. I grew up in a much rougher setting, and so I don't have necessarily all the social cues to be, to notice when people are going through these things. Um, for instance, the area I grew up in, and some people know, some don't know, but I grew up mostly in Kansas City. The county which I grew up in was a predominantly minority county. I would say that counting Native Americans, Blacks, and Latinos, that probably made 55%. And Asians also. 55 to 60% of where I grew up was, you know, melanated dominated. Well, my my county I grew up in was the poorest county in the entire state. It's the smallest county in the entire state, and also has the highest Black, the highest Latino, the highest Asian, and I know I'm forgetting an ethnic group in there, but basically all melanated people. It has the highest amounts in that state. There also is the lowest wealth county on per capita. And this is why when I have these conversations with people who grew up in different areas, and they make certain arguments, it's harder for me to wrap my head around what they're saying when they say, "Oh, well, there's all this opportunity." I was telling one of the gentlemen earlier today, um, just about how whenever we would drive into this other county, I grew up in a county called Wyandotte County. Those who, if anybody's familiar with Kansas City, or if you're ever going through there, I grew up in Wyandotte County. Um, the county that was to the south of us, in, our, I guess, suburban county was Johnson County. The median income in Wyandotte County is somewhere around 30,000 something. It's like 30,000 a year. The median income for Johnson County is 200,000. Um, when you growing up, especially back in in the 80s and through the going through high school in the 90s and stuff like that, whenever you would go to, and for people who don't know, let me back this up a little bit. In the state of Kansas, on your license tag, it initials it has the initials of your county in the top right corner. So whenever you drive into a more affluent county, it's very easy to see this person does not belong in that county. And if you got it was kind of like, since at a certain point, like a lot of the businesses and shops in my area were shut down. We had no choice but to only go to the predominantly white area. Which, oh, I guess I didn't clarify that area that's adjacent to us, which the median income is about 200,000 a year. Um, it is also about 90, I want to say 94% white. Um, so, just keep that in mind. Um, so all of these things are things which are factored into to this conversation. Um, I have been celebrating because it was Frederick had tweeted out something about Juneteenth, about Biden Juneteenth, and how he was, very dismayed about it. And I echo and share that same feeling. I've been celebrating Juneteenth since I was a kid. I mean, well over 30 years, I've been celebrating Juneteenth and knowing what Juneteenth was about. Also hearing the stories from my grandparents. Like, I mean, my great great grandmother was a Native American slave. While she was running, well, she had been raped multiple times, and she was actually pregnant with her slave master's child in her womb. Um, a lot of those stories, and then Tulsa, Oklahoma, and not only that. I mean, it, for time's sake, I'll only name a few. You got Tulsa, you got Detroit, you got what was going on in Harlem, you got Axe Handle Sunday in Jacksonville. You got Rosewood in Florida. There's I could teach a class on how many different mass slaughters or incidents or attacks like this, which are just nowhere in history, and it's never taught. And since these things are never taught, I have to run into occasionally somebody who makes the argument about Irish slavery. Now, for one, the amount of people who were in the category of categorized as slavery or indentured servitude was roughly about 48% of the Irish coming over. Now, did the Irish go into slavery when they were in under British rule in Europe? Yes, they did. They were under slavery for quite a while, and the British were brutal to them and the Scottish. But that what happened those hundreds of years before the British and all that came over to America, you kind of can't use that still. I mean, let's say they went through the most horrible ever. You can't use that still because none of that is affecting an Irishman to this day. None of that affects them. They're not still under thumb of Great Britain anymore. They have their own government. They have their own sovereignty. But my people, we were, and here's another thing I like to go into. This was a nation against a nation fighting. the transatlantic slave trade, that was not a nation against a nation. It was not a mutual battle. It wasn't even a battle. It's not like, somewhere there were some African tribes who wanted beef with Europe and was trying to fight this. No, Europeans snuck in and kidnapped people. One of the first ones, this is on record. I believe it's what was it, Prince Edward of Portugal was one of the first who in what was it, 1440s, was kidnapping African slaves. This is where it started. Now, it, anytime somebody tries to compare Irish slavery, and now let's go back to the time of when the Irish were actually enslaved in Ireland. What was the population of the Irish? I mean, from what the last numbers I remember, it was under a million. You're talking about under a million people, and not even all of the people of that million went rough. We'll just say a million. Not even all the people of that million even went through that. I mean, the population of Ireland right now is 4 million. Now, we're talking about 4 million versus a conservative estimate of just African American slaves over 200 million. Over 200 million. Not one single Irish indentured servant was trafficked across, packed in like sardines to shit and piss and buy all kind of bodily fluids all over each other. That did not happen. That's one of the first things that we have to clarify. You cannot compare that it's the same. For two, the moment that they got Native American slaves, the idea of treating Irish as substandard ended, because there was an edict written by the Catholic Church that made slavery legal to any so-called non-Christian and every non-white person. And so when I hear a person talking about, oh, the Irish, for one, here's something that a lot of people don't talk about either. How did most of our police, till this day, why is Irish the main majority of these forces? Because those Irish who came over as indentured servants, and let's clarify why most of these people came over as indentured servants. You had a potato famine that was going on over there. They were poor and they wanted to get the fuck away from there. So what did they do? They said, hey, I'll work for this amount of years to pay for my trip to get me to America. It wasn't like, oh, well, we could just enslave you forever. On top of that, in America, there were laws written on how you had to treat an indentured servant. So again, when I hear people try to make this argument about Irish, they were treated worse. There were no laws against raping a slave. There were laws against raping an indentured servant. You couldn't do that. You go to jail for that. There was a condition where an indentured servant can be forced into what you could call a form of technical slavery, because of if they violated the terms of their contract. Keep that in mind. Contract, which they worked out with that person, signed it and agreed to it. Slavery, there was no contract. It was just kidnapping and you're fucked. Another thing is, we have to declare and start understanding the difference between different types of slavery and different types of servitude. Yes, has there always been slavery throughout time? Yes, there has always been slavery. Was it like chattel slavery that happened with the transatlantic slave trade? No. Majority of it was not like that in any kind of way. Proof in the pudding is because if you look under Viking slavery, do you know some of the Vikings who became chieftains, who became leaders of the Viking clans, were former slaves? Obviously, that's not the same damn thing. There's been no former slave that has risen to the level of controlling this nation. There's none. There, what you have is you have a couple of darker faces in strategic places, but they really don't have any power to actually influence anything positive or negatively for their own people group. All they are is just a voice. It's the same as being out protesting. It's just a voice. It doesn't have the power to actually change anything. Yeah, you can put pressure on people and then that could make them decide to change, but it doesn't actually change anything. That's the same thing with a lot of these black politicians. Sorry to say that, anybody whose feelings get hurt by that, but you look at the damn Black Caucus. They look at reparations. Reparations has gotten nowhere. You look at George Floyd. They couldn't even get a damn anti-hanging bill. I mean, anti-lynching bill. I mean, how can you not get that done? But let 6 Asian people get beat up this weekend and watch 50 million go to some kind of Asian relief aid, or let a trans person get killed this weekend and trans relief bill or this relief bill or whatever. But I happen to notice whenever it happens to be the people who were brought over here through slavery or the people whose land was stolen in order to build up this crooked ass nation, those people, nobody gives a shit about those people or their concerns. Or I hear people who have the mindset, well, I mean, why are you so aggressive, and why are you coming at people that way? You got to understand this. For my Caucasian allies out there, because I do believe there are some really good-hearted white people out there who are, trying to fight the good fight, trying to rectify some of these things. But what you guys have to understand is, you guys I'll generalize this because I believe that this is being kind, putting the numbers this way. Let's say 33% of white people are want to change to this, truly want, reconciliation, truly want everything together, truly want to get past all this horrible stuff, want to right the wrongs and really bury the hatchet. Well, you have another third where they're just kind of in the middle. They don't really care. They'll put a Black Lives Matter symbol up there and yeah, I go with the cause, but are they going to put any effort towards it? No. If it doesn't get passed, do they care? No. So you have that other third, which they really don't care. And then you have that other third, which is completely against. So let's do the math and think about this. One third that is with, one third that is adamantly against, and then another third in the middle, which doesn't give a shit. That's 66%, 66.6 actually, kind of a scary number. But that 66.6 versus 33.3. Now, I don't know if you're good at math. You don't have to be in this case, but 66 is bigger than 33. And so if 33% of you are with us, 66% are against. And that's what I try to bring across to a lot of my white friends, especially on the West Coast, because I realize they really did a good job at making sure to keep a lot of the horrible shit in American history out of California schools. I mean, when I talk to people and they don't know who Wyatt Earp is, I'm like, how do you not know who Wyatt Earp was? How do you not know exactly what the Underground Railroad was? I mean, granted, a lot of the black community that I meet out here, most of them, their ancestors came from Mississippi, North Carolina, Texas, all these places, fleeing from all the racism and shit that they were going through. Whereas a lot of the white people out here, if they weren't involved in the racism, they're oblivious to a lot of it. They look at it as an abstract thing that's kind of happening out there. And what's not realized is almost all of your black friends and allies get some racist shit almost every day or every other day. I mean, I run into racist shit every damn day. Every day. It never fails. In my 40 years living on this earth, that's what I run into. So how do I try to put on this smiley kumbaya face for just every random person when I get white people who are racist and they throw it in my face and they're offensive. That are and here's the thing. Let me quantify my statement when I say racist. You don't have to be running around screaming the N-word to be a racist. If you are being unfair to these other people, then you're a racist also. I mean, a lot of it there's so many different things which in my eyes which are part of the problem in the system. The reason why most people don't see it because we literally live in a white supremacist nation. Actually, I won't even say nation. I'll say we live in a white supremacist world. The whole world since the Roman Catholic Church decided that, you know what, we're going to enslave all the dark people and take all their shit. And what's happened is, okay, now they've subdued all of those people and taken most of their wealth. And now, the descendants of those people who've taken a lot of that shit have risen to power. And now there is, granted, not every white person is necessarily benefiting from white privilege. I mean, not fully. Maybe they got a shitty job and maybe this is bad and they got a crappy landlord and whatever. But just because that one person, or I won't even say that one person, that percentage that you fall into that let's say what the 10% or let's say 5% of white people who do not believe they benefit from white privilege in any kind of way. If you're one of those people, that sucks. I'm sorry for you. But you have to keep in mind, majority do benefit in some kind of way. And if you guys are benefiting in some kind of way, you got to understand that other people are suffering. I mean, every time I'll hear dumbass people will say stuff like, well, if black fathers just get the fathers in the home. Do you not realize we got cops who sit there and just camp out in our damn neighborhoods waiting for us to break wind the fucking wrong way and throw us in jail forever? How are you going to have a father if you got cops throwing him in jail? How are you going to have uh how are you going to have a positive relationship to look up to if mama's struggling, daddy's struggling, they're fighting all the time because they don't have money, and everybody knows the number one reason for divorce in America is money. Money. Which community is at the bottom with the money? It's not hard to figure out who that is. And so when white people say stupid shit like, well, you guys just need to have fathers in your home. Look at all the shit which your ancestors have done to make that damn near impossible. And then you look at that asshole Bill Gates right now, literally buying up every inch of land that he can so that he can make it even harder for people to own homes. And if you can't own a home, it makes it hard to gain wealth because most people's wealth comes from property and land. That's why everybody but Native Americans, so-called African Americans, and Hispanics have such a wage gap because they were not allowed to buy properties evenly. It was not a fair distribution. You had redlining. You had you literally had neighborhoods where they would allow the Klan to just come in and do whatever the hell they wanted to get that minority up out of that neighborhood. And this shit has went on I mean, literally, my mom was still going through segregation. My mom's only 60, still going through segregation. I was listening to, I can't tell you how many times I've had bricks and rocks and stuff. I used to play in basketball tournaments where I would travel all over the country. And I used to hear, I can't tell you how many times I've been called the N-word. I can't tell you how many times I've had rocks or bricks or stuff thrown at us. I can't tell you how many times, some asshole little Becky has called the police because I've walked through their neighborhood. I can't tell you how many times where family members and friends of mine that still go through the stop and frisk through New York and watch their white counterpart just stand on the side waiting on them. This nation is not balanced, and it's not even. I mean, and so even though even though I don't put I don't put this on everybody. I don't even put this on the people living today. But if you want to try to skate out with it or minimize it at all, then I'm we're gonna have a problem. The reason why you can't compare, even if let's say it was exactly, let's say if it was exactly the same as transatlantic slave trade, how long ago was it? Those communities have had time to build themselves up after that. After slavery, what happened to my community? Nothing but a boot on the damn neck. And and when people say, "Oh, well, you're not being oppressed," that's not still going on. I have 5 years of college. I did almost 7 years in the military, having a top secret clearance and NATO top secret clearance. And I get out of the military, and they will hire a white kid fresh out of high school and pay him more than me in most jobs I've worked at. And don't say, "Oh, you don't know that." I do know that because a couple of times I was their supervisor making less than them. Stuff has, and it's always funny because a lot of times when I talk to people in California, they love to do the, well, I mean, it's not like that here, and stuff is changing. Whatever's going on in your neck of the woods and how it's changing, do not get it in your head that because where you live is better, that everywhere is better and everywhere is changed, because that is a fucking lie. Now, also a little reminder for those who don't know it. Not I grew up, in Kansas City, like I mentioned before. Literally, have traveled all over the country, and let's put it into numbers. I have been to 34 out of the 50 states. And you know what I found in every single one of them? The same racist shit going on in all of them. Now, some are worse than others. Some are more out front with it. Some are more subdued. Some are more coded. But it's still the same shit. Oh yeah, not in my area in California. And that's what I have people that'll say, well, not in my area. Uh, which part of um, which part of Cali are you in, Vicky? Because it doesn't matter where you go. It's modified a little in the South because they had the army literally have to march in and straighten these people out. Now what they do down there is you'll see plenty of good old boys laughing it up and backslapping with people of every race. But what happens is every time they have a party or a cookout or something going on, they ain't inviting none of them. They ain't inviting none of them black people or Latinos or Asian people. When it comes to promotions, they're not giving them any of those. They're not giving them that new foreman position. I watched a girl work as a cashier for 10 years. She's let's see, what, oh Vita. Well, she was Italian, but she looks oh, Palmdale. Okay, not that far. I'm in where what the fuck am I at? Southgate. Um, but they what was I saying? Oh yeah, and so Vita had been working there at Lowe's for 10 years. They actually told her when she applied for a head cashier, and the only difference between a cashier and a head cashier is head cashier will give overrides and they will arrange schedules. That's the main difference. They might do what they call a cart test, where they put a bunch of bullshit in the basket and see if you can catch when somebody's trying to steal something. But they literally told this girl working 10 years as a cashier, she's not qualified to be a head cashier. But they brought in some ditzy dumbass girl right off the street who had been working at McDonald's and make her a head cashier. Now, just so happened, coincidentally, that girl happened to be Caucasian. Um, and that's what I'm talking about. That was in Jacksonville, Florida. in an area where it doesn't seem like it's racist, but it is. I mean, I had one of the major contractors, and this guy would come in, do, I mean, multi millions a year. I mean, shoot, probably millions every couple months he was doing all kind of big projects. And he came out of the meeting with my ASMs and store manager at the time. And for those who don't know what that means, ASM, assistant store managers, um, he came out and he looked at me. He said, "Can I talk?" He said, "Here, come over here. Let me talk to you real quick." And I thought it was kind of strange, you know. At that time, I'm just, you know, a regular floor associate. Why would a big time contractor be coming to me when he normally just tells them and then they delegate it downward? He pulled me aside and he was like, you know, I like this store. I like the service I get here and everybody. But I just want to tell you so you know this that if you feel like you're not getting promotions and things are happening because of your race, he said, don't second guess yourself. It more than likely is. He said, I just sat through a meeting for the last couple of hours with your bosses, and I was appalled at how racist and how nasty that they are behind closed doors. And this isn't the first time I've heard shit like this. I've heard about Boston. One of my friends, he said, you know, a joke that people used to tell, and he say, you know, everybody fucking hates Mondays. God, I fucking hate Monday. And they would all just randomly say that over and over and over. Black guy didn't understand what was going on. Well, in the office, they refer to black people as Mondays. And so that's what they were saying. Black people are Mondays because nobody fucking likes Monday. And it's like, yeah, it's not always out in your face anymore. But the discrete racism, I mean, if you look at what's happened with the police forces, how many of these police forces, their DMs have been exposed, showing how racist they are, showing that, yes, they are pulling over people hoping to have an encounter to slam them on the ground and do all this shit. I mean, I literally watch every cop video and you watch, they're literally saying, stop resisting before they even fucking touch the person most of the time. We have all of this shit going on, and like I was telling, I was talking to Chris, my co-host on the Political Matrix, and I was telling him, I said, you know, in all honesty, all I internally really ever really wanted is just kind of an apology from the nation, or people to just when you say shit, they're not act like, well, that doesn't happen anywhere. I don't know what he means. This is a post-race society. Here's the thing. Everybody gives all these kudos and gets all happy about Obama. And like I remember when Mitch McConnell's done, I wish somebody with a spine or somebody like me could have been there when Mitch McConnell said Obama is your reparation. I would say, for one, he's not even an African American. What the fuck are you talking about? He comes from a Kenyan father, meaning he's an African. He doesn't have a pedigree through slavery. In fact, his pedigree with slavery is his family were slave owners. That's where he comes from for his pedigree with slavery. So don't put an asshole like him up there, Obama, and try to say, oh, well, he's your reparations. According to that, we still have not had anybody of descendant of slavery who has risen to any of those powerful offices. And then, you know what, while we're at it, let's jump on Kamala Harris's punk ass. Kamala Harris, who runs around calling herself an African American, she's not. At best, if she was, she would be a Jamaican American. That's not an African American. That's not the same people. Jamaica's a different nation. Then let's drill down on it a little bit more. When you go into her father's ancestry, you don't know what you're gonna find. You're gonna find that the father is actually Indian and white. That's what the father is, not African. There's no African blood there. So when Kamala Harris is calling herself an African American, you find out that actually what she is 75% Indian, and 25% Irish. Yes, going into the fact of in Ireland, that's where the largest amount of that's what I was saying. In not Ireland, but in Jamaica, that's where the Irish literally were the biggest slavers at. So anybody starts talking about, oh, well, the Irish this and that. Well, you know, think there's so many like the last name Gilchrist. You know how many black people I know with the last name Gilchrist? You know how many black people I know with the last name Ewing? I mean, I could get Kaufman. I could sit there and go through Irish slave master names all day long because once the Catholic Church decided, you know what, all brown people are fine to be enslaved. That's when that's at that point. That's when everything switched. So the victimhood of oh well, Irish, we were slaves, and no, stop that bullshit. When you're bringing up that, all you're doing is you're trying to minimize what happened in this nation. You can't minimize it because when you put the numbers up, you can take all of the genocides which went on throughout Europe. You can take all of them and put them together, and they don't even come up to the numbers of Native Americans that were killed, let alone the transatlantic slave trade. And then that's just in North America. That's not even getting into all through the Caribbean and going all the way through Central America and South America. So anybody who can't see this, and this is the reason why I have a big issue with them trying to get rid of the critical race theory teaching. You already had the Daughters of the Confederacy who fought to keep all of this racist crap in most of these books to keep most of these people stupid. I mean, for instance, I remember Israel Lucero, who he was making a comment about, oh, we don't need to learn this stuff in history. And then right out of his mouth, the next thing is, I just learned about the 1804 Haitian slave revolt. You just learned that's how Haiti became a nation, but you're telling people they don't need to know history. This is why you have, and actually, I won't just put it on white people because you have more and more. Oh, I'm seeing more Latinos who are doing this, sad to say, who are starting to become the, well, why don't black people do this and why don't they do this? Almost sounding like a white person from the suburbs. It's like, do you not know about redlining? Do you not know about green book laws in the South? Do you not know about sundown towns? Do you not know? There's so much shit. It's like, I mean, when my mom was a little girl, do you know how many civil rights leaders she watched get murdered? And not only just back then, I mean, murder after murder after murder. And all we're doing is asking for better treatment. That's it. Asking for better treatment. We're not even doing shit violently. That's how unreasonable the white elites in this nation are. They don't want equality. They don't want even to acknowledge. They just want everybody shut your damn mouths and get over it, black people. Just get over it. But you know what? 9/11, we can't never forget that. The Holocaust, we can't never forget that. There's all these things. Never forget them. The Revolutionary War, never forget. Never forget all those things. But all the shit that you did to get this nation, all the shit you did to build up this nation, all the shit you did to gain most of the wealth and power and all the land in this nation, we can't talk about that. You can sit there and spend your time, and this is what it cracks me up. You know, people talk about black on black crime or brown on brown crime. Who put us into those categories for us to have this crime? Who put these guns in the neighborhood? Who put the crack in the damn neighborhood? I mean, I didn't, as far as I remember, I don't remember, those types of plants being able to grow in America. I mean, or in North America. So how in the world, especially like the poppy fields, um, that stuff is coming from the Middle East, being shipped over here. How is that possible? That all of a sudden it gets into the most impoverished neighborhood Shit like that doesn't happen on accident. I mean, I even heard a Klan leader saying that, yeah, I mean, what he would do is exactly what COINTELPRO and things like that do. I mean, those in the political those in the political sphere already know about COINTELPRO. We already know that not only the government, not only were they putting shit into the neighborhoods and taking down, whatever black leaders, any kind of socialist leaders, any kind of communist leaders. And this isn't just back to the 50s. This was going on the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and the shit has not stopped. And Biden is trying to ramp it up if you haven't noticed. So anybody out there who is trying to speak against the evils of this system, I swear right now, if John Brown, the abolitionist, was still alive, I mean, he'd be sitting in the cell next to Julian Assange. I swear he would. This nation has not changed. And this nation is going to pay for it, one way or another. Whether you believe in religion, whether you believe in karma, whatever you believe in. I mean, think about it. Even Rome couldn't stay reigning forever. America's gotten a little sloppy of late, and I'm seeing stuff with Russia. I'm seeing stuff with China. I'm seeing stuff with Iran. They're gonna keep fucking around. And my advice to most of you is keep an ear to the ground in those situations and start picking which country you feel safest to go to next. Because you want to get going before the fucking nukes start launching over here. Because this country is it's begging for it. Well, I guess that got most of what I wanted to say about. I'm pretty sure there was more shit that I wanted to say on it, which I didn't. But that's how what happens when I just, you know, do it right off the top of the dome. There's no notes, and I'm driving, so I do get temporarily distracted. And I just made it to the house, and so my neighbor likes to play playing around with me and behind the car and in the mirrors. So it's kind of funny. Oh, that was the other thing that I wanted to bring in. Uh, if you honestly do your research and literally look at every single place where Europeans have been, including Europe, because they didn't originally live there. As they started going into Europe, there's history of the Mycenaeans and Minoans and the original Brits and Scots. Yes, there were separate people. Brits are different than British. Scots are different than Scottish. That's the reason why you have languages which are predate, modern European or Indo-European languages where they can't figure out the exact connection or what language family it comes from because it predates Europeans. So there were people who were living there in those areas before the people start coming out of the area of South Caucasus and North Caucasus because there were two different exoduses into Europe, one which came through the Mediterranean, the other one which came out through Russia. And honestly, today we're basically living in a world between those two people who are fighting for power right now. Those people who came out of the North Caucasus Mountains still stayed in that area up into Russia, and a lot of those Eastern European nations. Some of those people did come from those South Caucasus people who were in the Turkey, Armenia area. And if you go back earlier to that, area called Anatolia or Hittite land. Look up all of these different names. I'm telling you, look these up and you'll start seeing some very interesting things. Like Anatolia is like the giant European empire that nobody ever talks about. It was powerful for a long. It's kind of like the Khazars. Nobody wants to talk about Khazars either because I know the stigma that it brings up for those who know what about Khazars. But it was a massively powerful dynasty at the time that rivaled a lot of the Byzantine and other different nations. And what ended up happening is all these other nations start to rise up around them, and eventually the Huns Actually, was it the Huns who pushed them out, or was it the? No, it wasn't the Huns who pushed them out. It was the Mongolians. So once they started to push them out, uh, they all started to move into Poland and all these other places like that. But I won't go into that. That's for another topic. But you know, I I wanted to clarify, like for anybody who read my tweet on there. I don't hate all white people, but I do hate your elites because your elites are the ones who are doing this. And it's almost like, from Game of Thrones, kill the masters. It's almost like the burden on the average white person is you got to find a way to start to somehow minimize or strip this power from the people who are perpetrating wickedness on you guys' behalf. Because for those who don't know, I'm a Bible person. Most Christians have been taught that the Bible is, oh, he's just judging everybody individually to a degree. Yeah, but he does judge nations. And do you want to get punished for all the shit your nation does? I mean, my people, we're living with our punishment right now, and things will change in the end. You know how it says the tail will be the head, and so I'm just waiting on that day, and the head is going to be the tail. So I just ask for those out there to always keep fighting, to keep that separation between you and what you stand for and those at the top. Know also, if you hear me going in and I say something, white people this, know which white people I'm talking about. I don't feel like always putting a disclaimer. I mean, especially if it's like 90% are the ones who are doing 90% are doing this. Do I really have to put the disclaimer for the 10% of you guys who are fucking decent? I mean, seriously. That said, I guess I will hop off of here. I wanted to try to keep these short, but well, I guess still, even if it's 45 minutes, that's still short compared to my typical live streams. But I do have a couple of projects I am working on. Um, oh, what did it say? You don't have to, Marcus. We know who you mean. Oh yeah. I mean, and it's the same thing whenever anybody, if you start, well, especially on my Hebrew apologetics page, you guys will see that more often. Oh, well, I guess I can put the camera on. I'm not driving anymore. But the Hebrew apologetics page, I got a couple of like, I got some shit coming. Um, the video I'm working on right now, it's dealing with the color or complexion hue of Adam, David, and Esau. And so I'm doing that. I'm almost finished with that one, but it seems like as I get to the end, I remember something else I was supposed to throw in there, and so I just keep on editing and editing and editing and editing and adding and adding and adding. But I'm about to just have like a massive dump of stuff of videos on that channel because I am getting ready to do a very for those who are familiar, especially in the Hebrew Israelite community, are familiar with the Deuteronomy 28 break. Well, Deuteronomy 28 is a very important chapter in the Bible, and so I'm gonna do a full breakdown on the whole Deuteronomy 28. Um, and I need to drop all these other videos first before I get into that because I need to set a stage. So, um, I got another one. I think it's like a two-part where I'm working on the Talmud. And then the other video is actually going into slavery. So that's perfect way to finish this off. So yes, I have those dealing with the color of King David, Adam, and Esau, and what would be not necessarily every person of Esau, but the phenotype of Esau. I feel like in today's day, everybody can be mixed up with so much of what that you can't just can't look at somebody and assume that they're this or they're that. Like for instance, let's go with one which is easy, which everybody can understand. Okay, Ham is associated with let's say Ethiopia. I'll go with Ethiopia because Ethiopia is the only one which you look at and people know, okay, they're definitely black. Even though things have just gotten mixed around with the whitewashing, and the whitewashing has gotten really, really bad to the point where now the ancient Egyptians were just some kind of tan. Most of them were kind of tan, and a good chunk were white. That's a poor understanding of history. That's what that is. That's not understanding the different. That's not understanding the impact of the Ottoman Empire. That's not understanding different wars that have happened to push migration and push people to different areas. That's also not looking at archaeology, because if you look at archaeology, it shows you who the different people look like in the certain time periods. Um, uh, Also, it can tell you who was where. Also, here's another thing: simple questions you can ask people. Simple questions you can ask people. If you ask most Arabs and you say, because um, according to Arabs, they would have to descend from Ishmael. And you can ask most Arabs, and they say, yes, yes, we know we descend from Ishmael. Well, if you asked a Palestinian, do you descend from Ham? Because Palestinians actually are biblically the Philistines. So the Philistines were known to be really dark. But if you ask a Palestinian, are you a Hamite? They'll tell you, hell no, I'm not a Hamite. But they're calling themselves Palestinians. See what I mean? By you just can't take whatever a person is calling themselves to actually be, what it is. For instance, like if you guys see, and it's kind of funny, I realize like nobody even comments on it, but on my page, I put a thing on there about debunking anti-Semitism. Um, the amount of people in the world who would, I mean, just going on average, Noah has three sons. One's Japhetic, one's Hamitic, and one is Shemitic. Okay, then that would break the world in, let's say just breaking them evenly. That would break the world into thirds. Well, that would mean at least a third of the world's population would be Shemitic, not 14 million. 14 million, for one, it says that Israelites will be as the sand of the sea. So it's saying it's going to be a lot of them. So 14 million, I mean, that's less than 1% of the world. I mean, it's like doesn't even register on world population. I mean, it's so small. Shit, in America, it's still less than 1%. So it can't be the sands of the sea. That doesn't make very much sense. But so what my point in that and saying is that would mean that billions of people, whether they call themselves it or not, are Shemites also. And so for the one supposed white Shemites to decide that, you know what, the term only applies to us is just another form of white supremacy. Just another form of white supremacy. So I guess I will leave that there, get myself onto this editing. Yeah, that's what I need to do. I need to get these done. That way I can start researching because I got so many videos backlogged for that channel. And so when I could push out all those, I got a couple more got a couple of videos that I'm working on, short videos instead of the just live streams for the political matrix also. So please look out for that. Please look out for all the content. If you have any questions or if it's something that's going on out there, you're like, you know what? I haven't heard you really talk about it. I maybe I don't know about it. I mean, so inform me. Drop it in the comment section that hey, why don't you talk about this issue? If it's something that you guys want to talk about, and just like right now, you mean you can throw it in the live chat. I am driving, but I catch a stop sign, a light here or there. I can look down and peek and and answer back. But on that note, I'm going to get out of here. You all have a great, great afternoon. So funny. I'm so used to saying weekend, but great afternoon. Thank you for dropping in, Vicky. I know I had VCR in there. I didn't see anybody else comment. So for anybody else who hopped in the room and for those who will catch it later on, I appreciate you for checking out my video. And this will be, Monday, like I said before, Monday through Thursday, um, 5:10 Pacific, 8:10 Eastern, to catch my car ride chats. Every day it's going to be, I don't know what. I might have a good topic, and who knows how far I divvy off. It'll be off the top of the dome. So I apologize if I can't stick to the topic at hand. You all have a good one. Thank you.